Good morning. It is 9 a.m. in Kenya, and you are welcome to our session today. Today we have a presenter who is actually a partner to Africa Journal Club, a very active and avid partner and a supporter of our programs. And I will mention a little bit about her entity, and then I will also invite us and indeed. So Training Center in Communication is one of the organizations which have actively engaged a lot of our Journal Club members in training on different aspects of the research and publication journey, including scientific writing. There's been lots of trainings. A lot of us have really benefited from TCC Africa. And today we are honored to have the Executive Director, Joy Owango, who will be presenting to us on how to conduct a literature search. So at this juncture, I would like to invite Joy. You're welcome, Joy. And if you like, you can share screen. Karibu, and I'd like to hand over the session to you. Can I spotlight the video?
Yes, yes, you can.
Okay, good. All right, good. Welcome.
Morning, everybody. My name is Joy, and as Joy said, I'm the Executive Director of the Training Center in Communication, and we are a center that supports researchers, research institutes, and governments on how to improve their research output and increase their visibility. And we are 15 years old. We've been supporting researchers. We are based at the University of Nairobi, and that is our parent partner. And in the last 15 years, we've supported over almost 9,000 researchers. So we're almost hitting the 10,000 mark before the end of the year, and that is quite an accomplishment for us. So what I will take you through beyond the literature search is understanding the trends in academic publishing, which play a crucial role in the kind of literature such as you'll be doing, and the journal selection strategies, and understanding Scientometrics. All of this have a very strong correlation on your literature search and where you'd actually, what tools you'd identify or use to conduct your literature search. Okay, so let's start with Scientometrics. So Scientometrics is, in essence, the science of citation practice. That's what it is. And when you're doing a literature search, you normally find yourself choosing maybe the most cited publication. The question is, why do you do that? You need to understand why people do that, because as scientists, we tend to stand on the science, on the shoulders of giants. So you'll look at who is the most cited researcher in your area and look at the relevance to what you're trying to work on, and chances are high you'd be citing them. And it's because of that Scientometrics is really important. You need to understand how it plays a crucial role in your literature search, because Scientometrics supports researchers in three ways: understanding how a researcher is performing, understanding how an institute is performing, and understanding how a particular research area is trending. Okay, and that is how, and it's based on Scientometrics that you literally make the decision on whether you want to choose a paper to cite or not. So just to give context, it started in the 50s, and the person who came up with this idea of Scientometrics was Dr. Eugene Garfield, a scientist, and he just noticed that researchers are citing each other, and he wanted to know why, understand why they're making that decision. And the result was the birth of the Institute of Scientific Information, which is today the Clarivate Analytics Group. So as I said, the various variables that you'd find in Scientometrics that you are already using is looking at the performance of authors, so the H index, looking at the performance of publications. This is now when you actually make a decision on whether you're going to cite a paper or not. Making a decision on where you intend to publish. So looking at journals, so that is the impact factor. Looking at citation analysis in research discovery. So you're looking at the performance of various publications before you choose which one to search. Okay, looking at the performance of your institute and also looking at the performance of your country. All these have a strong correlation with Scientometrics. So when you're looking at the author's performance, you're literally looking at the H index. How many of you are familiar with the H index? How many of you are familiar with the H index? Hands up. I have the H index. Anyone? No one? Even in the group? What is the H index? Okay, who is that? Risi.
Risi Mark.
Risi. Risi. Yes. So Risi, could you tell us what you understand, how you understand what the H index is? Risi. Risi.
Risi, can you hear us? Risi,
can you hear us, or put it in the chat?
Can you tell us?
Okay, let's see. Let's see if there's anyone who's put it. Yes, Risi, you said you understand what the H index is. Could you type in the chat and tell us what you think it is? So that everyone else can see. Everyone else, just give me a wild guess what you think the H index is. Just put it in the chat. What do you think the H index is? Yes, Risi, give it a try. What is the H index? What do you think the H index is?
Feel free to unmute yourself if
you
try. I know some of you are good with Google. You might have already. Chris Limo. Chris Limo says, I think it's a measure of how often a researcher is cited.
Okay.
And Risi says, I'll try. So Risi, you are free to also guess. Risi says, I think it's a measure of how conversant a researcher is in the field, measured in terms of publications and citations.
Okay, and see, it pretty much, your definitions are very close to what an H index is, because at the end of the day, an H index measures the influence of a researcher based on citation. And obviously, when you're looking at citation, it's out of publications. Okay, so I'm sure you've seen, especially in Google Scholar, if you look at Google Scholar, it indicates the H index. Now, the higher your H index, the more influential you are, because this is how the H index works. It is, if you have an H index, I'm just breaking it down. If you have an H index of 7, it means of all your papers, 7 of your papers have been cited at least 7 times. So what happens if you have an H index of 20? It means that of all your papers, 20 have been cited at least 20 times. So the higher your H index, the more influential you are. And this is why I'm saying it's very important, because institutions today are using an H index as a way of promotion. It's an HR, it's used as an HR variable for promotions and seeing whether you can also get collaborations. So institutions are heavily relying on H indexes. Now, the thing is that you need to understand about H indices, I'll be talking about this in detail, is that they're unique to the platform you choose to use. So if you look at the H index from Google Scholar, it's different from the H index from, okay, it's the same, it's different from the H index from ResearchGate. It's also different from the H index from Researcher ID, but the calculation is the same, okay? The variables within each platform vary based on what the platform uses to measure to calculate the H index, but the formula is the same. Okay, so the H index measures your influence as a researcher. This is based on the number of citations on the publications you have. So in some cases, you'll find that there are people who have an H index of up to 200. So that means that they've published quite a bit. And of all their publications, 200 of them, at least 200 of them, have been cited at least 200 times. And some of these platforms that calculate the H index connect collaborative they have collaborative aspects and also funding aspects based on the research that this person has done. So you'll come to understand Scientometrics is extremely important. You'll find that Scientometrics is extremely important because what a research manager would want to see, or a CEO in a or an executive director would want to see, is how has this person been performing. They'll just look at their H index. It pretty much summarizes how you've been performing as a researcher. Then we will talk about impact factor citations, institutional H indices. This is normally done by, there are quite a number of organizations that are already measuring the performance of institutes, so that this always comes in at high level situations whereby institutes are looking at collaborators. So it still follows the same suite. So it looks at the number of publications that institute has produced and the number of citations against the publication. So instead of it being at an individual level, it is now, it's actually accumulated. At a country level, it's also the same thing. But then the question is, why do they need to know the H index? It's mostly for benchmarking and performance of the institute or the country. All right. I talked about the various types of H indices. It is unique to the platforms. I talked about Google Scholar, ResearchGate, and Researcher ID. So Researcher ID belongs to Thomson Reuters, which is also currently Clarivate Analytics. And these are free platforms. And what they do is they collate your publications and they now measure your performance. You can search by research area, or you can search by author if you know the person. But most importantly, beyond it just being a platform where your H index is calculated, it helps disambiguate your names. So if you have, like in my case, I'm Joy Owango. So in some cases, in a journal, it could be j.owango or owango.j. So what it does is that it Researcher ID disambiguates all these names into a unique number. Okay, so you get that Researcher ID number, but then most importantly, it starts calculating the performance of the research output, my research output. So the papers that I have written or co-written with authors. Okay, so we talked about Researcher ID. So there's Google Scholar, right? And I believe by now, if most of you are doing your postgraduate studies, I believe by now your universities have said that you must have a Google Scholar account. Okay, and for them, it's to see how you're performing, pretty much. It's to follow on how you're performing on your work. And for those who are senior researchers or mid-level researchers, this is the senior researchers are heavily reliant on this to see how you're performing in order to make a justification on promotions. That's a reality we cannot ignore anymore. Gone are the days when you give a CV, a PDF with your CV, they want to see this. They would like to see this. Okay. The other aspect of Scientometrics, remember I told you there are variables that we are actively using, is the impact factor. Now, the impact factor has a lot of issues. Let's start with the bad part, okay? It has a lot of issues because it measures the performance of a journal. And the original reason the impact factor was created was not for researchers, but was for librarians. So if there are any of you doing library science in the group, you'll understand where I'm coming from. Librarians had to choose journals, they still do that, to choose journals that they would subscribe to on behalf of the institutions. And the only way they could find out the quality of the journal, was through the impact factor. That's what I'm saying. Let's start with the bad side of it. So when you're talking about quality, it leaves a lot of question marks. Okay, quality doesn't necessarily relate to impact. Okay, and the quality at that point was measured by the number of times papers are cited. Papers are cited within that journal. So if they're cited over a certain period of time, they would calculate it and get the impact factor. So you see, there's a lot of buzzwords that were played with. Impact factor doesn't actually correlate to the impact of the research output being produced that has been published within that journal. So it was that impact factor that librarians relied on, okay? Librarians relied on to choose what journals they would subscribe to. But what started as an, lack of better words, innocent way of measuring performance of journals became a marketing gimmick that academic publishers took advantage of, and they used to attract authors. All right, so you'll find that certain journals are, you'll find that impact factor was very strong in certain research areas. It was weak in particular research areas like the social sciences and arts and humanities, even those in physics. You find that the impact factor was very low. And it put the pressure on authors and also, unfortunately, research administrators or university administrators in demanding that researchers need to publish in certain journals that have a certain impact factor. So as I said, impact factor doesn't correlate to impact of the research output produced that has been published within that particular journal. So when you look at impact, so that is the bad side. So you need to be cognizant of why it came up and how it has been abused. But now let's talk about the good side about impact factor. Impact factor measures the performance of the journal, okay, of the journal and the publications in that particular journal. So I like using the example of AIDS. So if you're doing research in AIDS, you're going to get impact factor on various journals in AIDS. So there's JAIDS, the Journal of AIDS, there's Immunology, the Journal of Virology. So you see, these are various journals that cover research in AIDS. But the interesting thing is, even though they're doing research in AIDS, you'll find that the impact factor of the Journal of AIDS is different from the Journal on Virology or the Journal on Immunology, okay? So don't stress yourself and say, I'm in library sciences and you're looking at the performance of journals, the impact factor of journals only in library sciences. Look, narrow down to your research area, because even within your research area, the subject areas, the journals with the specific subject areas have different impact factors. Let's look at currently research on hemorrhagic or not, on respiratory disorders. Okay, so there are various journals on respiratory disorders, but under respiratory disorders, we have COVID-19. Okay, so any journal that is going to publish on COVID-19 is bound to have a higher impact factor than a journal that is covering respiratory disorders, which is not focusing on COVID-19. Remember, COVID-19 falls under respiratory disorders. Okay, so it's narrowed down to subject area. So look at your subject and the journals that are accepting publications in that subject area. And also, if you're looking at the impact factor, if you're looking at making a decision on choosing a journal based on impact factor, look at the impact factor over the years that journal has achieved. In some cases, it will go down, in some cases, it will go up. All right, so you don't compare against other journals. Look at the journals you've identified to publish in, but then look at the history over the years this journal has performed. So that is how you monitor how this journal has been performing in terms of its impact. And when I say impact, it's a number of times the publications have been cited. Okay, so now there are two types of impact factor. Number one, there's one which is 2 years and there's one which is 5 years. All of these, when you hear journal impact factor, it comes from the Clarivate analytics. So where does this come from? So the one for 2 years is the total papers published over the 2 years, and then the citations achieved up to the second year. Okay, so that is how the impact factor is calculated. That is for 2 years. Then the same way for over 5 years. So if you want to see how the journal has been performing over the last 5 years, same process. So the total number of publications published, total number of papers published over the last 5 years, and then the citations achieved to the 5 years, okay, of that particular journal. I didn't say journals, of that particular journal you've identified. Now, once you've got that concept is when you become a bit critical about the performance of the journal. So as I said, it doesn't relate to actual impact of research output. It is just impact of that journal based on citation. So when you're looking at it from a literature search perspective, you'll find yourself going for journals that are highly cited. Chances are high when you look at the papers that are highly cited and you look at the journals, you'll find that they have high impact factors. All right. So do not stress yourself so much about it. You need to understand how it works. And then you need to understand how you can best take advantage of it to your needs. Otherwise, you'll be caught in the crossfires on impact factor coming from the publisher's perspective and you losing out. Remember, today, impact factor is not from the librarian's perspective. It is strictly from the academic publisher's perspective to sell. It's a marketing gimmick to sell so that you can publish in their journal. So most of the times when you receive in communication from editors, they'll say, oh, we have an impact factor of X. But you need to ask them, what impact factor is this? The only organization in the world, that is how bad it is, the only organization in the world that has a trademark journal impact factor is Thomson Reuters, which is currently Clarivate Analytics. Now, it's just like this, just to give you context, you have champagne and you have Prosecco. Even though the process of making Prosecco is more or less the same as champagne, you'll not call it champagne because the name champagne has been trademarked. So same goes with the journal impact factor. So when an organization says, a publisher says that they have an impact factor, ask, is this the journal impact factor from Clarivate Analytics? And the platform within Clarivate Analytics that calculates the journal impact factor is the Journal Citation Reports. So that is how critical you need to be when you're choosing, looking at impact factor from a scientometric perspective. You really need to be critical. Now, an organization that produces something similar to the impact factor, as I said, it is trademarked, so they can't call it impact factor, is Elsevier. Elsevier's is called CiteScore, but the calculation is the same. Remember, journal impact factor is 2 years or 5 years. CiteScore is the same process, but over a period of 3 years. You see, they cannot call themselves the impact factor. They had to give it a different name because the name journal impact factor is already trademarked. All right. Any questions up to there? Any questions?
I see some questions in the chat.
Super.
Yes, Marco had asked a question, but he figured it out because you explained it very well. Thank you.
Oh,
and then,
okay.
Bawate Charles asks, when writing the literature review section, how can I identify the knowledge gaps for each specific objective? I'm not sure if this is within our topic today on conducting a literature search.
I think it is. Hold on.
Okay.
When writing the literature review, how can I identify the knowledge gap? Yeah, it is. When we are going to do the, who is this?
Bawate Charles.
Okay, Charles. So when we are going to do the practical session, you will see where I'm coming from. It is possible. It is possible to identify the knowledge gaps. And this is why I'm taking you through understanding the basics of scientometrics, is because when you understand the basics of scientometrics, especially when it comes to citation analysis, you'll be able to get the knowledge gaps of the specific objective you're looking at. You're searching for each objective you're looking for. So Charles, we will use your research area when we're doing that exercise. So feel free to share with me your research area. Yes, Conrad, ask a question.
Yes, Joy, thank you very much. Just in only a few minutes, I feel so enlightened. I just like it. Anyway, now, mine was more or less of a comment.
Right.
In our university, actually, it so
Which
happened
university
that
is this?
Strathmore.
Yes.
It so happened that there are some guys who are going to graduate for their PhD, and then they were told that they could not graduate because the journals that published in the impact factor, and I think other scientometrics. Now is when I'm really understanding this thing because it scared people. But I think if I remember very well, the impact factor. that the impact factor of their journals was not good enough, and they had to look for other publications to go publish so that they could graduate. So now that you said that there's also CiteScore.
That is for Elsevier journals, strictly Elsevier journals.
Oh, so for impact factor is for any journal.
It's for any journals, because you see, Clarivate Analytics is not a publisher, it's an aggregator of data. Okay. But Elsevier is a publisher, but then it started aggregating data as well. So if you've ever used Scopus, you realize that that is their aggregator, their data aggregator. So when you see that the university is saying that you need to publish in a journal in a certain impact factor, you need to ask them to give you the list, the journal list that they intend you to publish in.
Yes, that was given. In fact, my worry here was now this one with CiteScore, because I was thinking if a university decides to use CiteScore, then in that case it would mean that their publications can only be in Elsevier.
It is only Elsevier. So you see, what I'm taking you through is the academic publishing bit. You know, academic writing, you'll come to realize that academic writing is actually easy because you're a team. Once you've got the gist of the IMRAD structure, okay, and you're a team, it's easy. You put it in the Google Doc, all of you write collaboratively. Rarely do you write a paper today alone. The academic publishing bit is a bit of a nightmare. Do you know why? Because you're getting into the business of higher education.
Okay.
And it is brutal. Like, I cannot begin. I wish I could massage it and say, yeah, it's okay. It's rather brutal. So you need to understand the game. And that is what I'm taking you through. So once you understand that, then you'll come to realize some of the decisions you have to make when you're doing your literature search. You see, now we are getting into open access, and there'll be a very strong component with that. Recently, I was invited to give a talk by the Oxford University Press in the UK. And this issue came up because now the challenge was getting information about research happening in Africa. So you see, we have our own challenges looking at the global north-south aspect in understanding academic publishing. They have challenges trying to understand, okay, so what are the trends in higher education in Africa that we can take advantage of and support African researchers? You see, so it's an ongoing battle. So you really need to understand the game so that you can have, you are on a delicate balance in understanding what it entails so that you can best take advantage of it, take advantage of the strengths. Let's start from there, take advantage of the strengths and see how you can go around the challenges. So I'm not telling you not to use impact factor. You will find yourself using it. It depends also on the administrator. So it's the issue of knowing the bad side and the good side and how you can take advantage of the good side. So Edwin, how do you go about resubmitting a manuscript? Oh, yeah, Edwin, yeah. Okay, so once you've resubmitted, his question is, this is the reason why I'm wincing. So he's asking, how do you go about resubmitting a manuscript already published in another journal? Yeah, you can't. That's gone. You see, the thing is, when you're publishing, when you're going through the journal selection strategy, which is actually part of this conversation today, once you submit a manuscript and it has been accepted by a journal. Remember, there's a difference between submission and accept. Submission, you've just given it up. So acceptance is when now the editor says, okay, you've gone through the peer review and we like it. Acceptance, once it has been accepted, you hand over your copyrights. And once you hand over your copyrights, you do not own the rights to to your publication. Though this is changing. This is changing with the rise of open access and various models in open access, especially open access agreements. I would not like to get into detail about that because part of those agreements really are to protect your rights as an author so that you can retain your copyrights. Okay, so Edwin, to answer your question, you lose your copyrights and that's done. And this is why sometimes publishing is quite a nightmare if you do not understand the business side of it. Abu Bakr, does this mean I should limit my literature search in journals with high impact factor, example, only to Scopus and ISI? No, Abu Bakr. expand your literature search, okay? Expand your literature search and expand your literature search. Take advantage of open access. We are getting into that right now. Take advantage of open access because it's in your, it's to your benefit because people will see your work. So expand your literature search. Just be critical about where these journals are indexed. All right. So if you happen to find a publication that you're interested in and you like it, we go through this. I mean, my research area is higher education and Scientometrics. Okay. And I love it. And every single time I'm looking for publications on higher education, maybe in Africa, you get some really good papers, but then I make the step ahead to find out which journal was this paper published in, okay? Is this journal indexed? And journals, good journals, always indicate where they're indexed. They always indicate where they're indexed. So I hope I've answered your question, Abubakar. Risi. All right, so where we receive, how then do I go about literature searching in a field, in a new field, if I'm trying to get the basics and the gist? Do I cut off everything else and only focus based on impact than quantity? When you're doing a literature search and it's something new, I suggest you do on both ends. So you look at, first of all, what is the world saying about it? And especially those that are mostly cited about it. So start with that, and then you can also look at the basics. So just look at both sides. I'm not saying you ignore the basics. Do your search on both bases. So you can look at those in journals that have the highest journals that have the highest impact, or journal papers that are highly cited. You can start with that, and I always say that is the easiest because you want to know, okay, who are the big guys talking about? What are the big guys saying about this research area? Then you can also focus on the basics. But then impact factor, remember, Risi, impact factor will not be a reason for you to do your literature search. Impact factor will be a reason for you to do your journal selection strategy. Okay, so when I say journal selection strategy, it means that you will be looking at impact factor most of the time when you're choosing on whether to publish or not. Citation analysis will be the reason why you choose to cite a paper or not, because that is when you see a journal has been cited numerous times. I hope I've answered your question, Risi. Say yes or no, or put a thumbs up. I'm seeing Marion. Okay, does that mean that publishing in open access is better than? Yes, anytime. Publishing in open access journals anytime. Please go for it, 101%. And of late, I've been telling researchers that when you're doing your when you're writing your methodology in explaining how you're doing your literature review, sometimes it is okay to say that I only did my literature review is based on my research is based on only open access papers. There's a good side to that. Number one, you're looking at papers that are easily accessible. So by default, your work will also be easily accessible. There's a bad side to that in the sense that you might end up missing out on really good papers that are on paywalls. But you see, they're behind paywalls. So it's a delicate balance. So when you put it when you indicate it in your methodology, it becomes slightly easy. So the person who's reading the paper will be like, okay, she only used open access publications, but anytime open access. So that is Marian. Let's see. Good. I think that's it for now. Now we'll get into open access publishing and how it has a huge impact on your literature search. Right. Here we go. And it's a bit frustrating when you go through this whole process of publishing, or you're looking for a really good paper and you find it and you have to pay for it. It can be really frustrating, or you've published and you cannot access your publication. And that's the reality of academic publishing. So between 2018 to date, there's been a huge movement on open access. And the reason why this is becoming an issue is, first of all, visibility of research. When you look at African research, they're very quick to say that we are over 1.3 billion and 0.1% of our research is not visible. It's not visible because we are not doing research. It's not visible because of one of the major aspects is because of paywalls. You see, when you look at the various paywalls, that are that exist, we are the ones who tend to suffer the most as African researchers. And what does that mean? It means that people cannot see our work, and we cannot access work. So in the last 2 years, we are seeing a strong growth in visibility of African research because now we are intentionally publishing in open access journals. And because of that, in some countries, and I'll share with you this data, in some countries you can literally see the open access publications outweigh the paywall publications. So African research is increasing. And not only that, you're seeing, you know, we come from a continent of over 2,000 languages. So now you're seeing research in our national languages. You're seeing research in Igbo, you're seeing research in Amharic, you're seeing research in Afrikaans, you're seeing research in Swahili. Or even you're seeing research in Kinyarwanda. These are things we never used to see before, because with open access and access to national languages comes with translation services. So now we are seeing research coming out that was ideally, or that was initially hidden. So the trends are changing and they're coming in our favor. So open access is the way to go. So if all of you, please, unless you are rich, please go for open access so that we can see your work. We want to see your work, right? We are getting into scholarly publishing. And one of our partners is Zoom, PLOS. So what we're doing with PLOS, one of these things, it's so exciting, is that PLOS has launched open access multidisciplinary journals. Okay, from the just for context, how many of you are East African? Just raise your hands. East African? Just raise your hands. If you're East African, just put it in the chat. Just raise your hand. Put this sign. Where is? Are you able to raise your hands? Good. I can see 10, 11. Good. Good. How many of you are West African? Yep, I can see West African thumbs up. Good. Do you know what this means? Do you know what this means for all of you? It means that thanks to PLOS, you can publish in any of their journals free of charge. How cool is that? You can publish for free and you can access it for free. So you're in the regions and it is multidisciplinary. All right. So it is multidisciplinary and you can publish for free and access it for free as well. So please take advantage of this. All right. So take advantage of this, because we are, as a center, also we are partnering with organizations that are helping increase the research visibility of African research output. Now, trends in research discovery. Now, this is the part now all of you are asking, all right, so how do I start my literature search? So this is where we are going to go through the nitty-gritty of it all. So remember, there are paywalled options on research discovery. So we have Web of Science and Scopus and Science Direct. So the questions you're asking me earlier on, should I just look at publications in Web of Science, Scopus, or Science Direct? They are here, but they are paywalled. So your institute has to pay for it. So you're looking at about $60,000. Then we have open access journals. Open access databases. In this case, you have Dimensions, you have the Lens. If you go to TCC Africa resources, you're going to get more. So let me just put this in the chat. If you go to this, you're going to get more. So I'm putting this in the chat for all of you. There we go. Right? You'll be able to get more of these open access platforms. Now, you need to understand also in academic publishing and the whole process of citation or research discovery, there are two types of platforms. You have bibliographic databases and you have citation databases. So now, What are bibliographic databases? Bibliographic databases, they just collect bibliographic information. They don't do any citation analysis. So this is now when you take a few steps back, you'll understand why we had to start with Scientometrics, because it is easier, anytime, it is easier to work with a citation database because you have the bibliographic information, but with citation analysis. Some of the bibliographic databases you have definitely seen include African Journals Online, those ones you know, Directory of Open Access Journals. Then there are other international ones like CORE, Science Open, Meta. This is for those who are in biomedical sciences, Discovery. These are bibliographic databases. So they don't have citation information. So all you do is just choose papers. But then you see sometimes when you're choosing papers, you want to know which is the most cited paper. This is now where citation databases come in. Citation databases. We've just had the conversation. So citation databases, they include Clarivate ISI or Web of Science by Clarivate Analytics, Scopus, that is a citation database, but it's a paywall. Dimensions, which is open access. All right, so these are all citation, these are open access citation databases. That is Dimensions is an open access citation database. So I will take you through the exercise on using Dimensions, which is an open access citation database. Okay, so I'll take you through this, how to use it. Okay. So as I said, it is an open access database. You remember when I was talking about citation information? So are you seeing this? It already has some citation analysis. All right, so it just doesn't collate information, but it also shows how those papers are performing. So it helps you make a decision on whether you're going to publish in those journals or not. Not because you've read it, but it's also you want to see what are other people saying about this paper. Okay, so that is the power of having a citation database. And remember, from the 50s till 2010, all these things used to be paid for. Now we are getting open access citation database. So this is a really good trend in higher education. Okay. So you can search by topic area and then get data sets, grants, patents, clinical trials, and policy documents. Charles, prepare your research area so that we are going to use your example to do the literature search, and you can ask the questions. You can ask as many questions as possible. You see, you can get open access information. So based on that search, and you choose, okay, I'll just get open access papers and leave the rest, all right? Which is still quite a chunk. That's what I was saying. With time, you'll find yourself telling your supervisors that, you know what, I opted to use only open access publications. Good, where am I? So I'll do the demonstration. Now, since we are all of us are in Research for Life countries, the first thing you need to do, I've also had one-on-one conversations with some of you. The first thing you need to do, please get in touch with your librarian. Get in touch with your librarian, tell them to give you the institutional Research for Life access. Then I will show you through Research for Life how you can access Dimensions. So please keep this recording because that is something that you can use. You can use when you're accessing Dimensions. I don't want you stranded, but the first thing you need to do, please, please, please tell your librarian to give you their the university's Research for Life address. So before we get into the demonstration, now we need to understand more about open access. We've talked about open access. We are going to talk about preprints. This is part of your journal selection strategy process. Now, I talked about open access and why it is important, and the rise of Plan S has just been a game changer for everyone in the academic publishing sphere, because right now it is mandated if you're getting funding from any government institution. And when I say funding from a government institution, think Swedish Cider, think NORAD Norway, think DFID, okay, the UK, we are not getting any funding from the UK anymore. But think any funder who is not an industry partner, you need to publish in an open access channel. Why? Because that is government money, taxpayers. The world needs to see that work. So I hope you're seeing now some of the changes and how they are benefiting you. And it will actually determine your literature search. Okay, so when you're talking about your literature search, it's not the usual, okay, I have a topic and I'm searching. You need to also understand the sphere in academic publishing and the decisions you need to make such that will help in increasing the visibility of your output. So as I said, because paywalls were withholding publications and research results. Now it's become mandatory. Anything that is published in open is funded by government money must be published in open access publication. So you can get more information about Plan S in that link. Now, preprints, we are getting into journal selection strategy. I think it was Conrad who asked that what happens when, is it possible to get your journal, your paper, your manuscript after it has already been published? So you remove it and put it in another journal. My answer was no. And there's a workaround to that during the submission process, not the acceptance process, the submission process. When you're going through your submission process, you've identified, let's say, 4 journals, and you've submitted your manuscript to one particular journal as you're waiting, as you're still seeing what they will say before you choose the other 3, and you're going through the submission to acceptance process. So the submission to acceptance process is that you've given it to the editor giving it to the reviewers, and then back to you. That back and forth can take up to a minimum 6 months, a maximum 1 year. That is how academic publishing is, all right? What does that mean? It means that the world is still not seeing your work. And this is why the rise of preprints have come up. Why? Because preprint repositories are platforms where you can put in your manuscript, start going through open access peer review. As you're going through the closed peer review within the journal, and it starts collating citations and downloads. Now, the next thing you'd ask, oh, what about the quality of these preprints? Okay, how do you cite a preprint? You will cite it as a preprint. So even in papers, it is okay to cite them as preprints. Citation databases are already collating preprints. The reason why, when you look at the current situation we are in and the research that is currently happening on COVID-19, we heavily relied on preprints for the decisions we made on COVID-19. Because we are very cognizant of the long period it takes for manuscripts to become published papers. But because of that long period, preprints became a game changer in research for COVID-19, and they are increasingly becoming a game changer on research visibility. So take advantage of preprints. So as I said, they are normally posted by authors in an openly access available platform, and it's also going through parallel peer review as you're going through peer review in your particular journal. So let's assume journal number 1 says, no, you're not going to accept your paper. The world is already seeing your manuscript as you move it to journal number 2, okay? And does Africa have a preprint? Yes, we do, called Africa Archive, and I'll share with you more information about this. The preprints give you credibility, visibility, and review. Credibility because it is citable. People can see your work, okay? Visibility because it helps in increasing your work, otherwise which would not have been seen, okay? And you're also going through review as if you will be in any publication. Any questions up to there? Good, Agnes. You start from Research for Life. That is brilliant. And I will show you how you can get access to dimensions. So we are going to talk about dimensions. Right. So the preprint repository in Africa, Africa's only preprint repository is Africa Archive. It accepts all research areas. So put in your manuscripts. It also accepts abstracts, video and audio abstracts, especially for those who are in social sciences. Ever wondered where you're going to put those extra videos? Here you are. Okay, so it accepts all. So remember, if you're going through your journal selection strategy, like the team from Strathmore University, since they were told, you know what, you have to look for other journals, the world still did not see those papers. So supposing those manuscripts were already in this preprint repository, chances are high it would have started collating citations and downloads as they're going through their journal selection process or strategy. So this is an example of a preprint repository. And we are going to go to the journal selection process. I like using our university partner, the University of Nairobi's portal, because when we started this conversation with them about 5 or 6 years ago, the first thing they did is create a microsite purely for journal selection process. So you'll have access to these links, and this link, let me just for the sake of everyone, so I will help. There we go. Though it is recorded, you may not, there we go. Here we go, in the meeting. Okay. So go to that link. It will take you through the journal selection process, academic journal selection process. All right, it'll just take you through the various, the standard academic journal selection process. That is number one. It will also guide you on mitigating predatory publishing. So it is very detailed on identifying predatory journals and conferences and publishers. It has detailed information on that. But the one thing I like about it, that it went a step ahead, and within it, you will be able to get journals per subject area. Okay, you'll be able to get journals per subject area. So that helps in mitigating predatory publishing. So it's one of the libraries in Kenya that literally made an effort to support the academic community. And remember, this is open, so it is not closed to those who are in University of Nairobi. It's open to everyone. Okay, so you'll be able to get journals in every research area. So from accounting to music. Okay, so you'll be able to get all that information. Now, next is using artificial intelligence. This is my favorite. So artificial intelligence, so this is normally what is happening right now. Remember I told you academic publishing, think of it from the business perspective. So the publishers are coming up with ingenious ways for you to publish with their journals. So this belongs to Elsevier. So it's a journal finder. All you need to put is your title and the abstract and you find journals, but you'll be finding journals for Elsevier. Okay, so remember, this is Journal Finder Elsevier. Taylor and Francis has something similar. Springer Nature has something similar. So it is really, really up to you on what publisher you want to work with, so that which publisher you want to publish your work with. I hope that answers the question. Now, Clarivate Analytics went a step ahead. Remember, I told you Clarivate Analytics is not a publisher, but it's a collator of data and also an aggregator of journals. So what Clarivate Analytics did is that they came up with a similar platform, but the only difference is that the platform is on EndNote. It's a reference management software, but within the reference management software, free version, don't worry, it's the free version. So my endnoteweb.com, within it, they have an interface on journal selection strategy, and that is under Match. When you click on Match, you see same type of interface. Put in your title, put in your abstract. So it's the same thing as what Elsevier does or Taylor and Francis will do. And then you do your journal selection strategy. Why I'm taking you through this is because your research output is going to be quantified. Whether you're going to end up tweeting it or putting it on YouTube, putting it on Facebook, it will still be quantified. We're in a day and age when your research is being quantified, not only at citation level, but at altmetric level, as in how well does the world know about your work? So don't think, when you're going to start the literature search, don't think it ends there to you publishing. Once you talk about it on Facebook, on Reddit, if you have videos, if there are blogs, if there are news outlets, you can see it is being calculated. And donors are being extremely critical on how you're performing as a researcher. Now, it's time for us to get into the nitty-gritty, what do you call it? It's time for us to get into the practical aspect of doing the literature search. And we are going to use Charles Bawate's work. So, you said you're on Research for Life. We will use Research for Life as an example. Remember, we are all, and before, just hold on. As we are getting into Research for Life, please, as I said, this is it's a plea. Please ask your librarian to give you the Research for Life login details. Otherwise, you'll be in a lot of trouble. You'll not be happy, because this process can only be done through Research for Life. So now, here I am
Joy, I'm just doing a time check. We have 5 minutes to the top of the hour, and there are still a few questions on the chat.
Not a problem.
Okay, good. If everyone is fine, we might go a little above.
That's
the
okay.
Time today.
I'm easy. I'm easy. I'm also easy.
Okay, good. All right.
All right. So first of all, go ask your librarian for the Research for Life login details. All right. So these are the login details I have for Research for Life. And this is the good thing, this has been recorded because you use this to access the information. This is what you should be able to get. There are some of you already have access to it. Okay. Heather, the link for UON is here. I'm sending it again. There you go. All right. Heather.
Oh, yeah, Heather was saying thank you for the link. Yeah.
Oh, she's seen it. Oh, thank you. I thought she was okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Heather, sorry, Heather. So you get into Research for Life. So first thing, ask your librarian. This is something you'll end up fighting with them. Some of them will not send it to you on time, but please be adamant. Go to Hinari. Then you go to content. All right. Click on databases. Once you click on databases, go down to dimensions. Remember, this is an open access citation database. Now, all the questions you wanted to know on how do you do your literature search start now, because I've made you understand the various components. Remember, I told you it is a citation analysis. Look at all these matrices. It has these matrices, okay, to help measure your search. Okay. So now let's look.
Hello, we are not seeing your slide again. We are not seeing your slide again.
We can see the slide. I'm wondering on which screen you are, sir.
Which one are you seeing?
Because we can see the screen sharing. Maybe check your screen.
I'm on the dimensions page.
Yeah, we can
I can see the dimensions.
Yeah. So just proceed, Joy. I think it's probably his screen that he needs to adjust.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So I am looking at Charles's work. Charles says the impact of education intervention on patients' adherence to artemisinin-based combination of therapy in Uganda. So what will be the keywords on that, Charles? What will be the keywords? Artemisinin-based. Okay. Let me just use artemisinin-based therapy.
And then patients adherence.
Sorry?
Patients adherence.
Patients adherence. Okay. Patients. So looking your patients adherence. Just from a quick search, this is a global search. You're looking at over 125,000 publications. So this is in medical and health sciences, isn't it?
Yes.
Then you narrow it down. 13,000 publications. So you're looking at Uganda. I hope you're seeing how this is becoming more, it's becoming more concise. So we narrow down. So this is global. So let's see Uganda. '54 publications. Which is the oldest publication on this? 2008. Out of this, which ones are open access? So you're going there. Okay, which ones are open access? 49 of them are open access. So you can actually use papers that where you can access the full text. Okay, 49 of them are open access. And then which is the most cited? You can start with the publication, the relevance. So this is the closest to what is relevant to your work. So the citations. So these are the most cited ones. As you can see, the information. And then maybe you want to see which one is the most talked about maybe in the press. When I say the press, it's Twitter, Facebook, whatever media platform. This is it, and it shows you that information. Actually, when you click on it, all right, so even this one, when you click on it, you should be able to get more information about what you're searching for. Okay, I am changing my screen. Are you able to see the altmetric donut? It's blue.
Yes,
able to see that?
we can see.
Good.
Yeah.
So you're able to see the research and what the world is saying about it. Okay. It has a policy document, it has been tweeted 96 times, it has been in dimensions, it has been mentioned in dimensions over 86 times, and these are the countries. So you make that decision. Okay, I'm opening another one. Are you able to see this other one, this other screen?
Yes, we can.
Good. So you can see how this journal is performing. This particular paper is performing. It has over 86 citations. It has over 27 field citation ratio, over 8.5 relative citation ratio. It has over 72 recent citations, which if you click, here you go, the number of citations from the last 2 years, okay? Over 72 citations based on this particular paper. This information is able to guide you on whether you want to publish in it or not. That is a summary. You're able to get the citation information and also the journals that papers that cited this particular, the most recent papers that cited the particular paper you are interested in. The reason why this is important is because even when you're doing your literature search, sometimes you find more information in the papers that cited the paper you're interested in, okay? And the citation database can give you this information because it gives you the connection, the citation connections, all right? So when you have that information, you're able to make a much more wholesome paper, write a much more wholesome paper than if you're just searching and then you get your bibliographic information and just pulling out papers to add to your literature search. And maybe you'd want to know, okay, who else is doing research in this area other than Uganda, or which Ugandan researchers worked with, I mean, in this area, since Uganda is doing research on patients' adherence, but with which countries did they work with? So you can see they work with the US, the United Kingdom, South Africa. You can get the papers, you see, the Netherlands, Tanzania, and you can actually broaden your search as well. You can get, this one did not have grants, but you can get data sets. So if you remove the country, you might get granting information. Who funded this research? So let's remove Uganda. You see, you can get the granting information and the patents that came out of it. And if you're going down to, let's go back to Uganda, you can see who published in it. Remember, we were talking about journal selection strategy? Since we are narrowing it down to so then you look at source titles. Are you seeing here? Source titles is where have they published. Remember, it's on your research area in Uganda. Okay, so this is where they published. Where are we? As you can see, PLOS. You remember I was talking about PLOS? They are published in PLOS 1, Research Square, BMC, and these are the top 10. If you go to the left-hand side, you can get even more journals that they published in. Are you seeing that? It's beyond the 10. So it also helps in mitigating your predatory publishing because you're already seeing who published where based on your research area. Are there any questions? Yes, Chris, this can also help. That is why I'm saying when you go through dimensions, you'll be able to narrow down and get your search actually from Kenya as well. Yeah, any questions?
There are a number of questions in the chat, and thank you so much for such a useful presentation today. Very enriching. I agree with the person who said. I see also Flavius has raised his hand, and before I call Flavius, I'd just like to go through the chats. There's a couple of comments. I'm scrolling up. The chat has been quite active, and Abubakar Abba said the H factor is a method for evaluating the impact of others' output and performance. I hope he got that right. And
correct.
Okay, good. And he proceeds to ask, does this mean I should limit my literature search in journals with high impact factors? For example, limit to only Scopus and ISI?
No,
So
as I
that's a
said
question.
earlier, it means that just limit, open your search, do your search in particularly open access journals. So you'll find actually one of the trends, because of open access, you're seeing journals with the ones which are getting high impact factor, the ones which are open access, because people can see them. Okay, people can access them. So open your search. So it's not necessarily with those journals that are in ISI or in Scopus, and also with the rise of open access citation databases, just go for journals that are indexed and that are open access.
All right.
Yeah.
Dr. Judith Nguli says it's surprising to have commercial journals, the ones you pay for, having a high impact factor. So it seems, you know, she has noticed that. And then Edwin Ochomo says, interesting question from Conrad. How do you go about resubmitting? I think you already answered that one about resubmitting. And then Risi Makoha had also asked about literature searching in a new field. If you're trying to get the basics and the gist of the content, do you cut off everything else and only focus on quality based on impact factor than quantity?
No, that is the example we just did right now, Risi, whereby you need to look at both. You balance both. So you look at what is happening globally, then you can narrow down, then you can look at in terms of citations. Citations, that's where you're looking at quality, because it's how many times, who, you know, it is the paper which has been talked about the most. So the paper that has been talked about the most tends to have the highest citation. So that's where the quality comes in. Quantity is when you're doing your global search and you have all these publications that you need to sift through. So you need to look at a balance of both. I'm seeing a question of, at what stage of publication journey do you make a submission of a manuscript as a preprint? When you're ready to submit. When you're ready to submit to a journal, that's when you put it as a preprint. Always, you know, when you're at that stage, when you're looking for journals to publishing, that's where you start with submitting into a preprint. So let the world start seeing it.
Okay, and then Marion Kainama asks, does that mean that publishing in open access is better because one can retain their rights?
Yes, actually, that is what is happening. One of the trends, as I said, I really didn't want to get into it because that is like the business proper of academic publishing, is this new trend in academic publishing known as the rise of open access agreements, whereby one of the components of the agreement include retaining the author's copyrights as you submit your journal, as you submit your paper into the journal. So as I said, that is the business bit of it. So researchers are trying to take control of their work. Remember, you're the one who's done that work for 4 years, 4 or 5 years, then you've written it, then you can't access it. Right. So they're trying to change that trend so that you can still access it and own it. There's a question of, I need to go through the R4L URL, or do I go to Dimensions directly? Yes, you can go to Dimensions directly, but you're not going to get all this information on analysis of your research, of your literature search. So that is why we are saying that you need to go through Research for Life. And let's see.
Yes, the next one was Chris.
Kate. Yeah. Please, your librarian should be able to give you that information.
Okay.
Yes, Chris.
And then Chris asked, what's the place to legitimate research of using sites? What's the place of using sites that provide access to journals that are not originally open access, such as Sci-Hub? What's the place of Sci-Hub? This is so useful because of his research area is in Kenya.
Yeah, it's a good thing we're in a country where you can get away with it. You didn't ask that question comfortably in Europe. Why? Because Sci-Hub is banned in quite a number of European countries because of copyright, very tough copyright laws. And this is why we are giving you open access citation and bibliographic databases where you can get your research information. Okay, they are trying to go against the grain. They are now negotiating with a lot of publishers so that you can get information the right way. Okay, in Swahili, not chini ya maji. So the non-Kenyans, you know, under the table. So don't get research output under the table. this is why we are taking you through this open access platform. So if you go to our website, so let me see, it's already up. If you go to our website, you will find that we have quite a number of, I'm opening it right now. We have quite a number of open access research discovery solutions so that you don't ask these questions, okay? So that you know, you don't have to be reliant on, you can get away with Science Hub, Sci-Hub in some countries in Africa, but not everywhere. So what we're trying to do is that you get a platform. If you're not on Research for Life, we've managed to collect publication databases on our website that you can still use and get publications. Are you seeing this? All this, Chris, please don't use Sci-Hub. If they're open access platforms, all this. So let me just narrow down by research discovery so that it is just straight to the point.
Yeah. And then Tijani Musibao says, can you please recap?
So all these platforms, as it is opening, are the ones that are available to you. Okay? Are available to you to conduct your research. All right? So you don't need to be stressed about using platforms that it is opening. Once it opens, I'll share the screen. You don't have to use platforms that are already fighting the establishment, because right now there's a rise of open access research discovery, bibliographic databases, and open access research discovery citation databases. Okay, so just go to our website. We've been collating this and making it easy for researchers to do their research discovery without the stress of now thinking of, okay, fine, I need to go through the illegal way. So use that platform, and you'll have about 10 platforms. Cumulatively, they almost have 1 billion records. 1 billion, including books. They have 1 billion records. So you can go through that.
Wow. And Tijani Musibao says, can you please recap this process? I think I'd want to encourage
James,
everyone.
there's no country category in dimensions. It means you're using the free version of, you're using the open, the one which is just straight on the web. Let's see. It means that you're using the version which is not on Research for Life. It means that you're using the version which is not on Research for Life. And that one is, you see, this is what I was trying to explain to all of you. So I'm just going to show you the version that is not on Research for Life to understand the difference. And this is in answer to James's question. So I'm sure, James, you went straight to the website, you went online, and this is what you got. You went online and you just went and you got dimensions immediately. That option of dimensions has no country category. It is just, it gives you global searches. So you'll not be able to get the right results of your search. So this is if you go directly, you see this? I'm sure, James, this is what you got. All right. And you only can access publications, but you cannot access the grants, clinical trials, and policy documents. This is why I'm saying, please go to your institute and get access through Research for Life. If you're not in an institute, go to our website and you can still access publications, okay? Publications, including some which are research discovery platforms online. So we've aggregated them so that it is easy for you to do your search. Okay. I hope I've answered your question, James. Marion.
And I hope
yes.
Tijani is also following, because he had wanted you to recap. So it would be good to look at this recording after today. And Zadok Mainge says, thank you for the educative session, Joy. Could you please talk about the use of Boolean operators in literature search? Can it affect quality of literature search?
Okay, so Boolean, so that is normally in advanced searches. Somebody knows his search operators. All right, so when you're doing an advanced search, I just need to see. When you're doing an advanced search, one of the things that, so here we go. Are you able to see that screen?
Yes, we can see it now.
Okay, So when you're doing an advanced search, all right, it gives you the option of using Boolean operators to help narrow your search. So you could do a search with, let's say, Kenya and, or Kenya or Kenya not. So you just, the thing is with Boolean operators, it helps narrow down your search and helps exclude what you do not need, okay? And it makes your search a bit more concise. The beauty about Boolean search systems is that then you're not left in the dark. Any citation database or any bibliographic database will guide you on what Boolean system you're using. Like in this case, dimensions is telling you, okay, if you're using and, it tells you what you're going to get. If you're using or, you see, like in this case, it requires that each term or both terms are present for match. So it guides you on what you're searching for. So it could be Kenya and, it could be your key search, your keywords or, you know, so it guides you on each of the options that you want to choose. And even some of the characters. So let's say if you put an asterisk, it means that you're just narrowing your search within that limit. Okay. So it's like a wildcard. So it cannot be used as a leading wildcard for or inside of quotes. So basically you're searching maybe on Kenya. So it will narrow down on anything and everything about Kenya. Okay, wonderful. So it helps. So you can add the and or and then put the asterisk at the very end. So it helps in narrowing your search. So pretty much what it does is that it helps in narrowing your search or refining your search. And Boolean operators are unique to the platform that you're using. Okay, the standard operators in the Boolean system is and or not. But then how they are used in a bibliographic or citation database is unique to that database. That is why when you're doing an advanced search in any bibliographic or citation database, they tell you how you can use those operators. Have I answered the question? Have I answered your question?
I hope you're well answered on the Boolean operators, Zadok. And then we had Marion asking, what else can one do with an already submitted paper? And Crispin is asking, I wish to know more about the modalities of publishing in open access journals.
Okay. So Marion, then Crispin. So what else can you, what was the question from Marion?
Sorry about that. What else can one do with an already submitted paper?
Submitted for publishing. Really, there's very little you can do unless it was in a preprint repository. If it was already submitted in a preprint repository, it means that it has more access to visibility and usage as compared to if you are doing it without it being submitted in a preprint repository and it's just submitted directly to a journal. So look at it, Marion, look at it from both cases, whereby you make sure it is submitted in a preprint repository, then you also put it in a journal. And then you also need to ask, the publisher that you've identified whether they can accept you, they will allow you to work with a preprint repository. Most of them do accept it. Do you know, allow it? Do you know why? Because when they start calculating citations on those papers, they don't calculate citations from when it is accepted. They'll calculate the citations from when it was a preprint. You remember I told you it's a game of numbers. So they'll start calculating from them. So always ask. Then there is a question, and then Anne, I see your hand is raised. Yes, I'll come to you, or maybe please put it in the chat as I'm answering Crispin's question. I wish to know more about the modalities of publishing in open access journals. What exactly would you like to know? Number one, in some of these journals, Crispin, they'll ask you to pay. All right? Yes, you need to pay to publish in open access journals. And that is where when I was telling you about PLOS, I was excited because it's one of the few journals, publishers that don't ask you to pay. So if you're asked to pay, you need to find out what are the incentives. You know, gone are the days when you say that you're a researcher in Africa. You're an early career researcher. You've got more support from a publisher when you're an early career researcher as compared to when you're a researcher in the global south. Okay, so see what incentives do they have for early career researchers. So chances are high you may need to pay. Then what else in terms of modalities? You need to find out what kind of open access journal is this. There's a bit that I saw that I need to take you through for you to understand. It is the unfortunate reality about publishing. All right, I am going back to dimensions so that you need to understand. And it is related to Crispin's question. Are you seeing the screen?
Yes, we can see.
In open access, we have you have bronze, gold, green, and hybrid. Okay, so let's talk about the common ones. Gold. A gold open access means that you still have to pay so that you can access your paper. All right, so you pay. So you're talking about the modalities on open access journals. So you have to pay, and then you pay for it so that the world can see it for free. All right, that is gold. Bronze and green, you still have to pay, but it means that maybe it's either subsidized or most importantly, you will have access to it after maybe a certain period of time. Okay, gold is immediate. So you've paid for it, the world will see it immediately. Now there's a finicky one called the hybrid one. The hybrid option, it means that your institute has subscribed to those journals. So the institute has already paid for those journals, and you still have to pay to publish in them. Remember, they still fall under open access. So when you're looking at open access, when you're critically looking at the modalities on where you need to publish, if you're now counting coins, ask the publisher, what type of open access journal are you? Are you a gold open access, which is actually in your favor? Or a diamond, which is even better? It means that you're not paying a single coin. That is why I was so excited about Plus, because you don't pay to be in that, to publish in that journal, and people will see your paper for free. Crispin, have I answered your question? Have I answered your question, Crispin?
Yeah, I think you have answered it.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe you tell us more about the clause now, the free one.
Plus, okay, we'll come to that.
All right. Yes, Dr. Judith Nguli still has a little more questions. There's a whole not so good looks with quality of work published in paid journals. What can you say about that? Is the thoroughness of the peer review compromised in the paid journals?
Now, you see, now that is the thing with academic publishing and you as an author and you being critical. Remember, I keep on saying this, publishing is a business. So it means the paid journals, when you say paid journals, subscription journals are also paid journals. So when you're saying paid journals, we need to be clear, paid journals in what category? Open access paid journals, where you still have to pay, or are we looking at subscription journals, which you still have to pay? All right. So if you're looking across the board, whether it is open access or subscription journals, when you're looking at the quality of review, that is normally an internal issue. It's normally an internal issue, and that is why I keep on saying you have to be extremely critical on where you publish your work, whether it is subscription, which is still paid, or open access, which is also still paid. So you need journals with critical, good quality peer review. Have they invested in good peer review, proper peer review systems to support the journal? So those are things you need to ask an editor. So when an editor asks you to publish with them and you're interested in publishing with them, you need to ask about their peer review systems, whether it is they're using artificial intelligence or also using human capacity, and how they are going about it, the types of peer review they are going through. So it is really on your part as an author to ask the questions, not to get excited when they tell you to publish with them. So it means that there's quite a bit of work that needs to be done on your side when you're critically looking at where to publish a journal. Like I always say, when you want to publish in a newspaper, you have the People Daily, you have the Daily Nation, you have the Guardian, or you have the Washington Post. Why would you choose the Washington Post and the Guardian and ignore Daily Nation or the People Daily? Same thing. So you're looking at quality, okay? You're looking at visibility. So it's really on your part to be a bit more critical when you're choosing the journals, especially when it comes to the peer review. And our paid journals, is the peer review compromised in paid journals? It's a yes and no. The compromise in peer review comes down to the quality of the peer reviewers and the systems that they have set in place as well to conduct the peer review. Yeah. So that is a yes and no.
Wonderful. There are quite a number of more questions coming in, and of course all the questions and links in the chat are saved for those who've been asking. We will also avail this recording, and you're welcome to join AIDA Africa Journal Club in order to get all the webinar materials. So Marion asks, what is the advantage of retaining one's copyright, as in what additional things can one do with the content of that paper? And Anna is asking a different question about waiver for open access journals. I have paid because I had a co-author from a Western country. Now I don't have a funder and I want to submit a manuscript soon. What do I do? So I think that's about the article processing charges.
Okay, right. Waivers, always ask. Please always ask. There is always a waiver for early career researchers. So Anna always asks for waivers. There's always a waiver. Sometimes it's at a reduced cost, sometimes it's 100% waived. So always ask. Okay, they always have, don't say it's because you're in the global south, there's always a waiver for early career researchers from publishers. They're always looking for new content coming from early career researchers. So that is something you need to ask. The other question was, that is Agnes, and then there's another one.
Marion was asking about copyright. Do you retain your copyright, and what is the importance of retaining the copyright? You see, the beauty of retaining the copyright, it means that you still own your paper. The first manuscript ever published, manuscript as an academic manuscript, was in the 1700s, 1775 if I'm not wrong. And can you imagine from 1775 to up to 2018, researchers never owned the papers, the copyrights of the research they had published. Can you believe that? It means you've done 4 years or 5 years of this hard work. You've written the paper and you cannot own it. When you own the copyright, it means that you can still access your paper. This is why the rise of
what does that mean? You can access the paper, which is a good thing. So what can you do? Now that you can access it, you have the right to it. What else?
You have the right to it. You have the right to share it. You have the right to share it.
To share it with many other publishers?
Yeah, not with other publishers, not many other publishers, because it's already out. You see, the rule of copyright is that when it is out, it's already out. So you can't share it with other publishers, but you can share it with your community. So as a paper, before people would share links, so you can actually share the paper. You know, traditionally, what would happen before the rise of the internet, you do once you've published a paper, a publisher would give you postprints. So they'll give you like 10 papers, which you can use to share with your colleagues. Okay, with the rise of the internet, they'll give you access to maybe share, download it maybe a couple of times or 20 times so that you can share those 20 papers. And they'll be very strict. They say you have to share it from our portal because they will know how you are sharing it. But now when you own the copyright, it's free reign. It's free reign. It means also your visibility also increases. Okay, so owning your copyrights means that you have an opportunity to share your work with the world at no expense. At no expense at all.
Thank you.
What is the process of securing copyright of my paper?
For another day.
Cool. The process of securing copyright is when you're going through when you're identifying a journal, you need to ask about their rules on copyrights or for the authors. So some of the journals are making copyrights accessible to authors, some are not. So you need to ask. So one of the things, before I forget, is that we are, as I said, we are working closely with AIDA Africa. We've been doing this and we are supporting, you're one of the 900 early career researchers we are working with and supporting. And the reason why we are supporting you is not everybody has the opportunity, unless they are funded, unless their research is funded, not all of you will have the support to go through the kind of training that we're taking you through. this training, most organizations, most researchers who are funded get support from their funders. Their funders. So now what we are doing with AIDA Africa is supporting researchers in improving their research output and increasing their visibility. And this is what we are doing. Please, we want to hear your views. The reason why we are saying that is, so this is one of our recipients. He just finished, he's a recipient of our mentorship and training program. And now he's also a peer reviewer as well. Why we need this is because you are helping someone else, okay? You are helping someone else who is looking for a platform to get support. So you will hear some of our members telling you, please, some of our organizers telling you, please send us your pictures and tell us how has this program helped you? What are you doing with this? Because you'll be helping a researcher out there who is looking for a mentorship group. Remember, there are very few. I think in Sub-Saharan Africa, there are 2. One in Western Africa doing a PhD in Africa, and AIDA Africa and TCC Africa. And these are programs that are supporting researchers who are not funded. So let's help each other. Share with us your views, send your pictures, because you will be reaching out and helping, inadvertently helping a researcher who's seen this on Twitter so that they can join the group. Remember, this is all free. We are not charging you. So you'll be helping somebody know that there's a platform they can use to increase their visibility or increase or improve their research output. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Joy. And I must say, this is one of our highest attended webinars lately. There are still people admitting, can you imagine, into the Zoom room? And we've had over 60 people live, and this recording will be available. There's a lot more questions coming from Tijani Musibao. Maybe if you don't mind, you can share your contact and the conversation can continue. There's a lot of thank yous coming in. Thank you for the enlightening session. Thank you so much, Joy. This was really, truly educative. And Conrad says, you're such a captivating presenter. I wish I could capture my audience interest like you. Joyce Dairo, thank you for the enlightening session. And so Joy has shared her email address, joy.owango@tcc-africa.org. So feel free to contact her. We are not closing down the conversation. The conversation continues. I thank all of you for being on this call today and for your lively participation. And have a great day. As you know, at AIDA Africa, our morning continues with the Shut Up and Write session. So it is now time to go and implement the sourcing of your articles, and your literature search, I'm sure, will be seamless from today's session. If you want, just take time to really go through this recording slowly and understand each and every beat that has been presented. So a lot more thank yous coming in. It was good. It was splendid. Great presentation. Wonderful session. Thank you so much, Joy. You're always a blessing. And everyone have a great day. You are free to now leave the Zoom room.
Thank you. Bye. Have a lovely weekend.
You too.
Bye too.